So team, welcome to Jira Live Training orientation session. This session will be a very quick, orientation on the tool, the Jira, how it will be used, and then we will have session starting very soon on the complete life cycle of the software development life cycle through Jira software. Now, a quick agenda for today, what we're going to cover. We'll try to understand the introduction to Jira software as it's very detailed. We will be dealing this particular thing through about 15 sessions or so. Today I'll just try to give a quick introduction to the software, and we'll also try to give an introduction to agile delivery, because when you go to Jira today, mostly in the initially it was just started as a issue tracking tool way back, very long back, but today it is used for the complete agile lifecycle delivery. So we need to understand, typically there are two types of projects that we can create in Jira, like, normal basic software development lifecycle, the way we used to do it in waterfall or in a quarterly release. And we also have agile Scrum development project. So we need to have a fair understanding of what is agile delivery, what is Scrum. So we will be dealing with them. Little introduction today. I cannot cover them up in one day. So we'll spend about 2 sessions on this agile and Scrum before we creating those projects and dealing with them. Then we look at what are the different software types that are available in Jira, and which one is that you can go ahead and start using for your practice. And also, what are the different project types available in Jira? As I was talking about, the basic software development, which is typically to waterfall or a quarterly release, what we have been following for a long time. But industry has completely shifted to agile for about 2 years. So how agile can happen in the Jira software? And so if somebody asks you Jira, or if you ask somebody Jira, they'll just define it as a simple issue tracking tool. That is the way it has been carried forward for a long time. All you create in the software of Jira is called issues. But typically, issue is something related to a synonym for a bug or a defect. But that's not the idea here. Everything is considered as issue, and they have been categorized into different things, like issue can be a task, issue can be a bug of that sort. It could be a subtask. So we look at what are the different issue types that are available in the Jira software. And what are the different user roles? Somebody can work as a Jira software manager. Typically, the project managers in waterfall model, product owners in agile model, or scrum masters in the Scrum team, who works like a Jira software manager. There is another role called Jira software user, where all the developers, the individual contributors like developers, testers, support engineers, build engineers, and these people will be working as Jira software user. Typically, what is their day-to-day job is to identify an issue, go and work on that issue. If you're a developer, you code for it. If you're a tester, you go actually test that particular piece or a feature, and then update the results of it. So typically, you will work on the individual issues, and then it will go through some workflow. Every issue will have some workflow, and then you'll complete that. So typically, as a user, you're not going to be working as a manager or scrum master like that. So we'll look at both of them in detail. Sorry, there was a audio lost for a minute. Hope you can hear me back. Hope I'm back and you all can hear me good. Okay, so since everything we maintain it through in a common repository or a common tool, now report generation at any point of the time. Suppose your project manager wanted to know what is the current status of the project, or your Scrum Master wanted to know how the tasks have been burnt by the different Scrum team members. So generating the reports is just click of a button, because everything we are maintaining it in the central repository tool. So there are different reports like uh, uh, sprint burn down chart, or it could be your task related progress. It could be at individual level, team level. All those reports can be generated very easily and very nicely by just click of a button. So we look at the complete flow right from creating a project. Even though you're not going to create a project, you will be actually just a user in the system. I hope you're all there here. Definitely not anybody working as Scrum Master or a project manager. If anybody is there from that category, that's really great, but I'm not expecting that. So if you're a normal tester or a developer, you would be actually working as a user. So you may not be creating a project, but we'll definitely see as a manager what are all the complete flow we can do. As an individual user, what you can do. We'll look at the overall structure. So this is a quick agenda for the next 30-35 minutes, and then I'll open up it for completely Q&A. Anybody has any questions before we move ahead? This agenda looks good. Anything expecting more? Of course, at any point of the time, we'll be definitely walking through workflows for each issue type, so you will be clearly understanding the flow. All right, so let's move ahead. Now, before we go into agile delivery, it's a quick introduction about Jira software. As I was talking about, the Jira software was initially completely a free software. Probably I can show you the link. It was completely a free software initially, and that's how it became very, very popular. And it was used as only issue tracking tool. People call it as issue tracking tool, but today it has been evolved into a very good commercial software as such, not just the free. I'll talk about all that, Rohini, is like how many days free you will get it and all that. So all you have to do is just go to the Atlassian.com. It is the company name which develops this particular software. They have not just the Jira, and they have so many other products as well. For example, if you just scroll down, there are so many other softwares that are related to it. But this is specifically which I'm talking with respect to the Jira. So it was a free software, just used to maintain only the issues, nothing much. But today it has been evolved into a software where you can do the complete software development life cycle, either with your waterfall model, quarterly release model, the way we used to do it in traditional. But industry has completely shifted from that to agile, so you can do complete agile. You can see here the number one software development tool used by agile teams. And the flow, how it starts in agile, if somebody already have an idea, that's well and good, but I am assuming that you people may not have any idea. So in my detailed sessions, I will be covering the complete agile lifecycle first. What is how the requirements comes in an agile in the form of epics, how user stories will be created, how product owners will work. I also have a quick introduction today also. Once we understand that, then only we can dwell more into this particular software. Now, so this is a product from a company called Atlassian, and this is the main use of it. If you wanted to use this software, as I told you, they became completely commercial. The product has become completely popular and it became commercial. There's nothing called free here. The minimum thing that you have to start is $10 per month, which I think it is still worthwhile, because previously the problem with any of these softwares when it was available as a licensed software, this is called services model, and previously most of these softwares was not in services model. So even if you are only two people in your organization or five people in your organization, you have to spend hell lot of money to buy the software, and you have to install it on your machine, and every year you have to renew. But looking at these variants now, if you are a small team, I think definitely any team can afford $10 per month. So that's the way you can go into services model and start using them. And even a smaller companies can actually start using them rather than maintaining your issues or tasks or whatever in the form of Excel or Word documents. Now you can go use these softwares at a very low cost. And that's the idea behind the services model. So you can start with a $10 per month, which is a basic one. If you want to go into complete documentation, you have $20 per month. And if you have help desk that you wanted, then you have a $30 per month. and the last one is something where you can create your own. You can customize it the way you want. Probably you may want something this and something help desk from it. Probably you may get it for $25. So you can actually do customization. So that is the model in which the Zero software, the commercial part of it works. So it's very easy, and that's why it's so popular, and that's why a lot of companies use this particular software. So it will add a lot of value to your profile resume when you say that you're also worked on Jira, you are completely aware of the agile model through, creating different tasks and, working through the project life cycle, rather than just saying, I know how to create my issues or bugs in the form of Excel. I know the format and all that. Rather than you can get into the software and you can say, I have worked on this particular software, right? So once you understand introduction about the Jira software, let's spend little time in understanding the introduction to Agile and Scrum. I'll be dealing more in detail in the further upcoming sessions, but a quick overview, because any further discussion that we'll do in the form of product owner, epics, sprints, and tasks, etc. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with waterfall model, the way the project used to work for a long, like 6 months, 3 months, minimum to minimum 3 months quarterly release, or it used to be a 6 months, or sometimes it used to be a year-long projects. I worked on a very long project which went for about 2 years. So that's how the old model used to work. But today, customers cannot wait for so long, and they want the releases to happen very dynamically, very quickly, as quickly as possible, like in a week time, or it could be a normal agile model works for about 4 weeks. That's what you can see here, 1 to 4 weeks of sprint. Typically the Scrum methodology works with something called sprints, which goes for about 4 weeks. But there are some companies who will have a weekly sprints, and there are some companies I know who get the requirements in the morning and who will deliver it to the customer in the evening. So it's like every day you will have a release. It's called daily release. But anyway, so let us consider, typically today most of the companies are working on the releases which are going for about 4 weeks. Now what happens in these Scrum methodologies, that previously we used to get the requirements from the customer in the form of business requirement specification called BRS, and they were used to be converted into some technical SRS document. So that concept no more exists. So there is no concept of BRS, no concept of SRS in the world of Agile. What you get, as you can see in the top left corner, is that you will get the requirements from the customer here. You will get the inputs from the executives, the team, and the stakeholders, customers. There are different stakeholders from which you will get the information what you have to develop in the form of epics. So it will come as something called epics. So we'll see in Jira how do we create an epic, what kind of a fields we'll be using it, and what information that you will be filling it up. Typically, epic is something a very high level information of what is the software that we wanted to deliver. Maybe it could be as simple as that. Suppose we wanted to develop a simple tax calculation software for an individual and as well as a commercial company. It could be something simple at that level. Or we may wanted to develop, for example, something similar to this gotowebinar.com, which is for an online meeting. So it will be of that level, and it will not be much detailed. And the engineering side, so this is what from the business executives, stakeholders, and customers will come. On the engineering side, there will be somebody called product owner, similar to what you used to call project manager in the waterfall model. So we call them as, in Agile the world, we call it as a product owner. He will be the one closely working with the business to get understanding of the epics, understanding of the requirements in detail. And then what happens is that he will create something called stories out of that. In Jira, they call it as story. We'll see how we can create the story and everything. But typically they are called user stories. So now these epic is created into much more detailed user stories with an explanation of, like, as a user, For example, if I'm going back to the first example of tax calculation, as a user, I wanted to calculate the income tax returns for my annual salary, for example. So that will go more in detail. And similarly, as the owner of a commercial company running with about less than 100 people, I wanted to calculate the income tax, details for my company. So you will have probably two user stories, one for an individual level and one for a commercial company level. So that kind of user stories will be created with much more detailed information. The main important thing in the user story when we look at will create in Jira is that acceptance criteria. How you can say that this particular user story is properly implemented. What is the acceptance criteria for the customer to accept this solution? When we develop the solution and go back to customer, how the customer can accept it, what is the criteria that he or she is looking into of it. So all that will go into user stories. And when a company works with many clients and many products, there will be definitely huge number of user stories, high number, so many number of user stories will be there. And the team cannot deliver all the user stories in one sprint. One sprint is hardly 4 weeks, which we're talking about, right? Since they cannot deliver everything in 1 month, so what they'll do, they'll go on stack ranking them. So you can see here, ranked list of what is required, the features and stories. So we'll go stack rank them by, product owner talking to customer. I understand you want a complete solution, but developing this complete solution would take about an year or so. And these are the 10 user stories that we have break down your features. Can you tell me which one you think is the most important for you? So he will go stack rank them 1, 2, 3, 10. And what the Scrum team will do is they will pick up the first important one or the second important one and start. So, but all those 10 are maintained in a terminology called product backlog. So if somebody calls product backlog, it's nothing but it's a collection of tasks or user stories that the Scrum team has to deliver it. Whatever I'm talking right now, theoretical, we'll look at in Jira how we can create all of these and then how we can move forward and how we say we are done. We're done with the sprint. We're done with all the tasks and everything. We'll look at practical flow. So that's called product backlog. And what happens typically is that the Scrum team, so here we have depicted a Scrum team, even though it is showing only 3 people, typically your Scrum team will be about 7 to 9 people, which includes the developers, testers, and there is one important role called Scrum Master. So who also works on the tasks as well as he'll also manage the entire Scrum team in terms of daily activities. Now together will be about 7 to 9 people. So then what happens is that the team selects what are the top user stories that they can deliver in the next 4 weeks of time. So a team will estimate each user story and then they will say, we have 10 user stories to deliver, but we can deliver only one user story in the next 4 weeks, or we can deliver two user stories in the next 4 weeks. So they will communicate that back to product owner. Product owner will go back communicate back to the business team saying, in the next sprint, we are taking up this particular user story, something related to developing a UI or developing a screen or developing individual tax calculation, whatever it is. So he'll go communicate back to the business and get an approval, and then the team go ahead and plans it. So that is called sprint planning meeting. So in the planning meeting, they'll spend a good amount of time in analyzing that user story, and that user story, under the user story, what they will do, they will create detailed tasks. Who is going to work on which tasks daily, what developer is going to work on, what tester is going to work on, what scrum master is going to work on, what the support engineer is supposed to do. All that will be created as detailed tasks. Again, we'll see in the Jira software how these tasks will be created and how these tasks can be tied up to a user story, and we can tie up to an epic. We'll see that complete flow. Suppose if I know an epic, then I can find out what are the user stories and tasks in that. If I know task, what is the user story and epic related to that. So we'll link all of them so that we'll have the traceability is maintained. Now, once you have the detailed task created, what we'll do, we'll assign it to the individual member. Suppose the simple user story, let's say we have created about 100 tasks. I also worked as a Scrum Master. I'm currently working also as a Scrum Master. My experience is go into detailed tasks as much as possible. At least the task should be detailed in such a way that it can complete in a single day. Single day means it should be 6 to 8 hours, what we generally estimate for every individual. In my case, we estimate 6 hours for every individual. Epic is just a high level information you can consider. Previously it used to come as a requirement in the SRS or BRS at high level, something similar. It's called Epic. For example, I gave an example that our business wanted to develop a product for a tax calculation system for an individual and a commercial. That's all they'll mention. That is an epic. Or they may want to develop an online meeting software where people can come and meet for any meetings or discussions or conference. It's at that high level. Then that epic will be broke down into various user stories. If I'm coming as a, for example, let's take an example of our Jira only. For example, the product own the business of the Atlassian company, they just may had a epic that we wanted to develop one software which is which should be in a services model, a commercial software that people can use it for their agile development methodology. So it could be just that high level epic, and that will be break down into so many user stories. What if somebody comes as a Zero software manager, what he should do? What if somebody comes as Zero software user, what he can do? What if somebody creates a project of basic development model, what it should be? What if somebody creates a project as agile model, what it should be? So there will be detailed user stories will be created out of it. So epic is at a very very high level information what business is looking for as a software solution, and that is not sufficient, so we'll go break down into many user stories. We'll look at them practically, how we can create and what information you have to fill it up and all that when we look at the tool. When we start with today, I'll just try to give a high level orientation of that, but we'll see how we can create. So these tasks will be created in detail and will be assigned to each individual member. Let's say developer one, tester one, support engineer one, like that. We'll assign it to every individual member. So what they'll do, they go on. So this is called uh, task breakout activity. And whatever we cannot finish in this sprint, that will go into sprint backlog. That means we'll do it in the next sprint. So the meaning of backlog, as we all can understand, whatever we can deliver in this will go here, and whatever we cannot deliver, it will go into the next sprint. And then the team works for about 4 weeks, daily picking up some tasks, and then they will try to complete those tasks. In that time, we'll see something called Scrum board. You know, in Jira, we have something called Sprint Scrum board. In the Scrum board, I'll show you all those screenshots and everything in a few minutes. In the Scrum board, you will see what are the tasks that you have yet to start, what you are actually working on, and what are required reviews, and what is already completed. So you will have 4 columns in the Scrum board: what tasks that you have to start, what you're already working on that is in progress, and what requires a review, and what is already completed. So every individual has to open the Jira software daily and update the tasks as per they complete. And that's how this burn down chart will show up properly. So there is a report in the Jira software, especially in Agile software, called burn down chart. Initially, there may be 100 tasks that the team has to work, but as the day progress, that you can see on the x-axis, as the day progress, the tasks will be get completed, and by end of sprint, everybody should completed every task. So the burn down chart comes like this. Initially, there is so much of work that the team has to do, but as they burn every day, as they complete every day, the task burn down will come to closely zero, and by end of sprint, it will result in such a way that everybody completed every task and the sprint is successfully completed. So that as a Scrum Master, I will be looking at it in a daily basis. What tasks are spilling over? What tasks are not completing on the daily basis? Who is not completing the tasks? And there will be a quick stand-up meeting every day, as you can see here, daily Scrum meeting. It's only for a quick 10 to 15 minutes. Everybody will come and explain what is that they are working on. In fact, what they have worked on yesterday, and what is that they are working on today, and what is their plan to complete it tomorrow. And in that I will come to know who completed the task, who is not completed the task, who is overlapping and all that by looking at the burn down chart. And when I look at the Scrum board, I know who is that individual has not started also. Probably I will work with those individual. What is the problem? Why you have not completed task? Do you have any roadblocks? We call it as impediments in Agile terminology. So do you have any impediments or blockings? And then that individual might say, you know what, my software is not working, my application is not working, then I'm following up with respective teams. Blah, blah. So we'll get to hear so many things. And then as a Scrum Master, I need to follow up them, ensure that tasks are going on smoothly. So like this, the team works for about 4 weeks and try to deliver whatever they have promised in the current sprint, whatever the uh, user story that they have promised, they will try to deliver it to the customer. So that is how every month the sprints goes on. If there is also a possibility for somebody at a higher level, more than the Scrum Master, maybe for a product owner or maybe for a business, to see, okay, fine, we have completed 3 sprints so far. I wanted to see how many user stories I've already implemented and how far my epic has come. So they can look at those reports also at the high level. Basically looking at the team velocity, how much they have delivered so far, how much they are yet to deliver, and there are some reports related to team velocity also. So that is how the typical Agile works. And any questions on this quick introduction to the Agile? Of course, we'll come back when we start the detailed sessions. I'll be covering a little more detailed about each one of them before we actually creating them in the tool of Jira. Okay. So this is about Agile. Agile is quick, the quick delivery, and there are different methodologies in Agile. You might have heard about Scrum. You might have heard about extreme programming. You might have heard about unified process. Yeah, retrospective comes at the end after you complete your sprint. People will come and sit for about an hour and discuss in the overall sprint of 1 month that we have worked, what really went well and what is not went well and where we can improve. So those 3 points that they will discuss. Basically, everybody talks about what went well in the sprint and what did not go well in the sprint and what we can improve in the upcoming sprint. So they do their retrospection every sprint to improve as a team for the upcoming sprints, what best we can do. There could be interesting answers coming from the team saying, somebody might say, there were not really regular stand-ups, people were not attending regularly, that's how we were not knowing the status and all that. Somebody might say, the stand-ups were very well, they were regularly happening, we know the status, and we know what to work on and things. And somebody might say, the tasks were not detail created, so and we were not estimated it properly. All those kind of interesting things will come in that thing. As a Scrum Master, as it is my job to make a note of them and improve them in the upcoming sprints. Is it clear? Okay, with this 10-15 minutes discussion of Agile, let's move ahead. This is definitely not something that we can cover it in 15 minutes. I'll come back and cover in more in detail about each one of them as we move in the Jira software. Okay. Next, if you look at the Jira software types that are, the variants available, previously the option that we used to have is to download the software and install it on your machine. And that machine should have a server operating system only. So typically this was the software, and even today it is available. It is called Jira Software Server 7.0, which you have to install it on your premise, which you have to install it on your server, and this is also called on-premise software. So the problem with this is, if it is a big company and there are many projects going on, many users are there, and if they wanted to control it locally, and if their information is very, very secure, for example, most of the banking related applications, personal information related applications, they will actually prefer this one. They will have their own server set up in their headquarters, and they will buy the software Jira from the Atlassian, and they will install the server software on their server machine, so that There will be an administrator, somebody called Jira administrator. Sorry if you are hearing this dog barkings. Just give a minute. I'll be muted. Looks like that's not going to stop at any point in time. Now let's move ahead. So all those companies who wanted to control their information very securely locally, so they will prefer this one, and they will set up a server in their headquarters. They buy the software from Atlassian and they'll install it on their servers, and somebody as an administrator will control how to create a projects, how to add users, what kind of a project we have to create. So all these scrum masters and the product owners will send a request to that guy administrator, and the administrator will actually create those projects and everything. So this individually, if you wanted to practice, frankly speaking, it used to be a big task in terms of it. You need to find a server operating system on your laptop or desktop, install the server operating system, and then you have to go and install the Zero software. That also requires a database in the back end, because everything will store in the back end at the end. So one good thing happened. That's the completely industry shift in the form of cloud technology. I don't know how many of you are familiar with cloud technology. So that can completely avoid the first point of explanation what I did, setting up a server, setting up your machine, and installing the software and everything. So what happens in cloud technology is that you all know there are different variants of cloud technology, like software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. So if, for example, if I'm a simple, let's say we are a very small company and there are only uh, overall 20 people in the company, so we cannot afford to go buy a server software. We cannot afford to go buy the complete license for a Jira for the next 1 year or so, and installing them, hiring an administrator for that. All those things are, big cost matters to the company, so they cannot afford. So those are the people. Or if there are only 5 people in the company, it will be much more difficult. For those are the people, it is best to go for the second version of it, or the second type of it, called Jira Software Cloud. Today most of the softwares are going in this direction, right from Atlassian, Jira, or you can consider the competitors for this. Can anybody know who are the competitors for this? Can anybody name any few softwares that you are aware of it, where you can also do the agile project management completely? Bugzilla, yes, it's mainly for the bugs, correct? But if you wanted to do the complete life cycle, okay, interesting answers. Rally, Taiga, yeah, Quality Center or ALM, basically from HP company. True. Anybody heard about any other things? We do have a great software called Visual Studio Online from Microsoft as well, typically for completing your entire, because when I was trying to, I have used all these ones, Jira, ALM, QC, but I just was trying to compare the features to explain it much better, and they almost competing with each other in terms of what you can do. Now, even the Microsoft Visual Studio, that also has something called VSO, Visual Studio Online, which is a cloud version of it, where smaller companies can go and use it. In fact, they are giving free up to 5 users. If you are only 5 users company, it's completely free, and more than 5 users is what they are charging. Whereas Jira starting with a minimum of $10 per month. I will be taking you through the complete how to create the site, how to create the projects and everything. So you'll be much familiar with when we do it. And the other one that we were talking about was the QCLM Visual Studio. Yeah, QCLM. HP QCLM is also another thing. Previously, I have dealt so many sessions on ALM as well. That was the biggest problem to, to set up the software in terms of it. I need to have a server operating system on my machine, then a minimum of 8 GB RAM that I would require to set it up. So much of hardware constraint. And it is very, very difficult for an individual or a small company to go and buy all that setup to set, just to install the software and use it. So thanks to the cloud technology, that's where the complete industry has been moved. And all that they will do is now in their data center, they will set up these servers. They will install everything for us. All you have to do is just go register as a company. Suppose when I do the first session, I'll do it in front of you. For an ITeLearn, we'll create a site. All that when we do that, they just need our information, my email ID, blah blah blah, and how many users we are going to work and all that, and they will create a software for us. They'll create a website for us, and all that we can do is we can start using through the site. Of course, if we cannot pay them back in a 10 days of time, if I remember correctly, then the software will expire. But if we can renew with a $10 per month, then that is available for every month. All right. So my preference that for all of you individually is the second one. No more required to, you don't need to have any proper hardware to set up your server and install. That was a previous case, but all you can do is at an individual also, you can go and create a website for you, works for certain days, and give a practice when you wanted to really practice, and then it'll expire. Any questions on the software types or variants? Anybody still not clear what is cloud and etc.? It will be much more clear when we do creation of it, but I think it's a simple concept. There is a data center. They will maintain all the softwares. Yeah, I will walk you through that, Sharmin. I will completely show you how you can create. We'll start registering it in the class itself, and then we'll get to see how the software gets created, so website gets created, and then we'll create projects and tasks, everything in that. Okay. This I have already showed you on the site. The cloud offerings are like this. The minimum to minimum is what you can go for a $10 per month for a basic software of Jira. If you want to go for documentation plus Jira, then it's a $20. If you want a help desk exclusively, they will assign you one administrator who will be completely taking care of your project and everything. It's a $30 per month. If you want, you can customize it for you, and then you can go for it. Okay. Now, what are the different project types that you can create? As I was talking about it, there are typically, you can see there are two categories here. One is for the software engineering team, and the second one is for the business. I'm not going to deal anything related to business. Business is a simple task management, project management, and a process management for them. Unless you want to go try as a business administrator, these are all not really required. But as a software engineer, be whether you are from a developer, whether you are from a tester, or a support engineer or a build engineer, typically there are three types of projects you can create, as you can see in the screenshot. The first one is a Scrum software development. This comes with a agile development, with a Scrum board, and with a sprints and user stories. And it will also, you can connect with your source code and the builds. Probably that part will not deal because I'm not expecting any developer here attending this session, but you can also connect it with your source code management tool and the build management tool, etc. The second one is called Kanban development, which will optimize the flow with, sorry, again with a board, and it will connect to your source code and build tool. So there is a small difference between the Scrum and Kanban development. So, but again, most of the people, what they use is a Scrum software development. So we'll look at Scrum software development. If possible, we'll just quickly create one Kanban also and see the difference. But my preference is to deal with these two, Scrum and basic software development. If somebody is still working on Agile, if at all, sorry, not if somebody is still not migrated to Agile, if you are still working on quarterly releases, or if you're working on a waterfall model, then this software will help you. Basic software development, where you'll track the development tasks and bugs and connects with source code and the build. So majorly the discussion will go through on these two things. One is the uh, agile software, and other one is the basic software development, right? So then if I want to practice, can we download the basics? Yeah, so that's what I was saying. We'll see in this first session, probably whenever we start with the next session, is what exactly what we do on that. You don't need to download anything actually. All you have to, the word that you're using, download, you're not going to do anything. You don't need to download anything. You'll just register in a site. That's it. And they will create a website for you and start using it. So that's the beauty of this cloud technology. You don't need to download anything. It is totally on their side in their data center. The server operating system will be there in which you will create the software and everything, and they'll just give you one link. And that link is enough to browse that software and it will totally be working for you. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to install it. Be it a basic, be it a advanced. All right. So now coming to these two projects that I wanted to deal in more detail, one is a basic software development, the other one is Scrum development. So what happens in basic software development? What kind of things that you can create in a basic software development is that these are the different tasks you can see here. Sorry, these are the different issue types. And if you want to look at the introduction, use this project to work on new features for your product and also track any bugs. It provides a basic workflow and issue type configurations which you can change later on. We can customize it, the fields and everything. But typically in the quarterly release or in the form of waterfall model, what you can do, everything is called issue. If you ask anybody what is a Jira, people will say it's a issue tracking tool because everything is maintained as an issue, and of course they have been categorized into of type called bug, of type called task, of type called subtask, of type called improvement, new feature, and of course epic. So this is what you can do in basic software development, and the workflow is very simple. Suppose you have a task created on certain activity to be completed, and let's say that is being assigned to some test engineer or developer. The workflow starts like he has to work on the task, and then he will move it into in progress when he is actually working on. And when he completes, and when somebody wanted to review that, be it a code or be it a test case or be it whatever it is, automation code, whatever, it will go into in review, and after the review completes, it'll go put it into done. When you say done, the task is completed, there are no more activities pending on that. So that is a simple workflow that will trigger when you actually create any of these tasks or any of these issues types. In basic software development, these are the types. What about in Agile? Let's look at the next one. In Scrum development, the issue types are these. Again, you have bug. Again, you have task. Again, you have subtask. The story, which I have explained a few minutes back, called user story, called story, and finally epic. The workflow is again very simple because it's agile, things to be do very quickly and all. Probably they are cutting down that review process, but I feel personally review is very, very important. Any task that anybody does it, review is mandatory because that's where you can actually eliminate most of the issues with respect to any delivery that we do. But the workflow that triggers is somebody has to work on a task, and then he will move it into in progress when he is actually working on it, and when he completes it will be just moved into done. But what we do is, since review we cannot avoid, in my case, as I already told you, I'm working as Scrum Master in a team. I strongly recommend the review for anything. So what I do, I will create a separate task for review itself. If some X person has to review Y person task, I will propose to create a task and assign it to the next person. The next person will actually take up the task, review it, and then put it in done when he completes the review. Do you understand the workaround that I do in my team? Basically, I don't want to afford to lose the review process. Review is very important. Personally, like it review inspections a lot. So to avoid the review part which is missing here, we'll create a separate task for the review of any task. We'll see all that, and that person has to review and complete the task. So this is what happens in Scrum software development. So we create a bug, a task, subtask, story, and epic. We look at these two software development lifecycle. In fact, I'll start with Scrum itself because Uh, Anybody is still working on waterfall model that you know? Anybody is working and working in software development as a waterfall still now? Because a lot of people already moved into agile. So I'll start with agile first. We'll spend good amount of time in agile. After you understand agile, we can quickly look at the basic software development also. It will not take much time. The next thing I told you, we'll look at the project, the Jira software. There are two types of users. What happened? There are two types of users. One is Jira Software Manager. So who can be as a manager is, it could be the product owner of that particular product, or it could be the project manager in the typical waterfall model. It could be any project manager, wherein all the developers, testers, and everybody reports to that person, and he is responsible for managing the project. So anybody at that level. In case of an agile or a Scrum master, typically this is what I supposed to do on every sprints. All I do is, this is a workflow. As I explained, we'll look at this complete workflow. We'll start with setting up the workspace. What is workspace? How to create? After we creating our website, we'll see how we can do this for our. We'll pick up one of the project and then we'll completely go through this whole process. We'll see how we can set up the workspace, and then we can create our project, customize our project to suits our needs, and then we go and create a backlog in that project. Backlog is nothing but it's just a collection of tasks that we have to deliver, we have to work on. We'll create so many tasks in that, and if possible I will include some of you into that project. I'll add some of you, some 5 6 people, if possible some 10 people I will add them. And I also need your help daily to go and update those tasks as if like you have done something on that, so that we can see the sprint burn down chart and everything properly. So I will create a backlog with all the collection of tasks in that project, and then we'll talk about what is grooming the backlog. It's called sprint grooming. And then grooming is basically, okay, we have these user stories that we have to deliver. So which one is that what we can deliver, and what we need to promise to the customers in the next sprint, what we're going to deliver and everything. And then finally we'll go ahead about picking up those tasks, and then we do sprint planning. Whatever we have committed to the business at a high level, now we'll go do a proper estimation, and we'll create detailed tasks for each of the user story, and then we'll assign it to the corresponding person who is going to work on the tasks, be it a developer, tester, or software engineer. Scrum master also will do some of the tasks, so we'll assign some of the tasks to scrum master. All that we will do. Then on the daily progress, we'll check how the tasks are getting completing as a stand-up meeting or a scrum meeting, wherein we'll see how each person will answer the task progress, and whatever is completed we'll put them into task completed, and whatever is in progress we'll put it in progress. Whatever yet to start we'll put them in to do activities. So we'll see how we can wrap up your work, and then you can do more with agile projects, like how you can generate the reports, how you can do the team velocity report, how you can do sprint burn down chart, how you can do what are the upcoming sprints, how many sprints you have completed, all those things as a complete flow. This, who can create a project and who can create a workspace in the Jira is, if you are logged in as a software manager, then only you can do that. If your role is a normal user, for example, you are just a user, let's say you're a dev or a tester, a support engineer, typically as individual contributor, you cannot create a project, you cannot create a workspace. Okay, all you will do is, your job is very simple. You'll find the issue that is assigned on your name. So when we create an issue, we'll assign it to somebody. Issue, can anybody say what is an issue? Don't just think that issue means only a bug. I showed you some time back, there are different types of issues. It can be a task, it can be a bug, it can be a story, it can be an epic, right? Everything is called issue in the world of Jira. The tool started as an issue tracking tool, but it's not really just a bug. So it's so many things. Now, all you have to do as a Jira user is find out an issue that is assigned to your name. There is a simple way to filter or write a query which will show only the tasks that are assigned to your name. So you find out the issues that are on your name and you work on that issue. If you're a developer, you write a code. If you're a tester, you test it. If you're a support engineer, you have to build some server or software, you build that. Wherever you need to require to collaborate with your team, you collaborate with your team. Suppose you need some information from another team member or Scrum Master, you go create it. So what you do is you collaborate with the teams wherever it is required. And then if you're a developer, you go ahead and create a branch for the coding, and then you start coding and you send work for review. If you are a test engineer, you write the test. This flow I've taken it from the site, which is depicting for a developer point of view. So don't get scared that, why should I start coding, blah, blah, blah. It's for a developer task. But if you're a tester, you will be writing the test cases and you will be sending it for a review. If you are doing a test execution, you will execute the tasks, you will execute your test cases, and then you'll update the results, etc. So, and then you finish your work. When you complete, you will finish your work saying it's done. So that is a simple flow that you will do as a software user. You all will be working initially as a software user, but I will be walking you through the complete manager activities also, as well as user activities, so that you know the complete picture of how Jira works. Even though you will not have in real time working as a manager until you gain some experience of 7-8 years. This is how a simple Scrum board looks like. I've been talking it through for a long time. So what is a Jira Scrum board? Initially, all your tasks will be on this to-do list. Suppose we are starting a sprint, let's say today. When we're starting a sprint today, all your tasks will be on the to-do column. And as you start working on them, you'll simply move the task from to-do to in progress. For example, there is this task is about for 5 hours and this task is about certain number of hours you have. So what you will do when you move it into in progress, and let's say at the end of the day today, when you're leaving the office, you're supposed to go to the task and update how much you have burnt. The task is expected to complete for about 10 hours, and today you have spent about 6 hours. So that 10 hours you have to reduce it to 4 hours because you have already burnt 6 hours of task. So that is how it will go into in progress and you update your task. And once you're kind of done with the task, you can send it for a review. This is from a basic software development model. In Agile, you won't find this. In Agile, you will find only 3 columns: to do, in progress, and done. This is coming from a basic software development where the task will be reviewed by somebody, typically who has similar experience of you or more experience than you, will review the task, and then he'll give you feedback if you have to do some rework. Otherwise, you will say this task is done. If you say review is very good, excellent, you have done the job well, then you'll simply move the task into done. And that's how all, by end of sprint, we wanted to see all these tasks coming into the last column, that is done. If any task, how to move the task, it's just we'll see. I mean, you can do a drag and drop or you can update the task. There will be a status for the task. Typically the status will show to do, in progress, in review, and done. So you have to update that column from it to do to in progress, and it will show in progress. If any tasks left incomplete by end of the sprint, that is called sprint backlog. So that will go into the next sprint for whatever the reason. Let's say one of the resource out of office for an emergency or met with a small accident or whatever. I'm just giving an example. Then the task will go into the next sprint. That's called backlog. All right. So this is called simple Scrum board in Jira. And these are some of the reports that we will be keep on watching on a regular basis. For example, the first one is very important: burn down chart. That will show how the tasks are getting burned by the Scrum team on a daily basis. So we wanted to see the graph coming down to 0 by end of the sprint. And there is something called sprint report, which will tell how many sprints we have completed, how many we are planning to do, all that. And velocity report, this will give you some team velocity, how many sprints we have completed so far, how many tasks we have completed so far, so how the team velocity is being utilized so far. Can we shuffle the teams to other Scrum teams to do much better effective job, all that at the senior level, Scrum of Scrums. Basically, this is called Scrum of Scrums, is where people look at all that. And this is a cumulative flow diagram. So there are different diagrams that will come up, so which we can see. And there is an epic report. There is a control chart, epic burn down chart, a release burn down chart, how the release are coming. So all that will happen once you have the data filled properly, once you have your information filled properly in the Jira tool, you just click of a button. As you can see on the left hand side, there is a report section, report icon. If you click, you will get all that. So this is what you can completely do with the Jira software as a normal software development lifecycle as well as Agile software development lifecycle. So we will spend about 15 sessions in detail, right from creating your site, how do you get your site, how you create your project of Agile, of basic software development, how you create different user stories, how you create epics in that, how you create user stories in that, how you create tasks in that, how you assign it to somebody. And we'll also do some simulations of how sprint planning happens, how we can also talk about daily stand-ups happen. And as I told you, I will take some of your help in updating those tasks to see a proper burn down chart, and then how we'll take it to a sprint end, and then we'll see what is sprint retrospective and all that. I'll try to kind of simulate through 2 weeks of sprint that can happen typically in a real time. We'll take this itself as a project, learning Jira itself is a project, and then we'll move ahead for next 2 weeks how we can achieve it. So that's all I have for the orientation session. So please let me know if you have any questions, which we can discuss it for the next 5 minutes. And then we'll start with these in the upcoming sessions. Probably, I think we just have some 4 or 5 days of gap, and then we'll start it. All right, so team, any questions that you have at this moment on the orientation that I've covered? The prerequisite for this is nothing, frankly speaking. All you have to understand from scratch, because no, 15 sessions we need. I mean, probably, if not 15, we need some 12 for sure, but I'm just wanted to go much more in detail and see how we can. So what if you are going to miss any of those 2-3 sessions? I know holiday season is coming up, so I wanted to wrap it up well before holiday starts. That is like December 15th for sure, so that people can go on the long vacations. I don't want people to come and attend in those vacations time. But for some reason, if you miss any 1 or 2 sessions, you'll have videos and you can definitely watch them. I will be definitely wrapping up by 15th of December for sure, because I myself are also going for a vacation. So, Rajit, really, I do not have any question, any idea about the fees and everything. Just write an email to learn@ITeLearn.com. They'll be able to help you. I think depending on your existing memberships, blah blah blah, it will come into it. Okay, so what is the question that you have on the Bugzilla? Probably, yeah, just quickly put it. If I can answer, I'll answer. Otherwise, I'll write you an email detail. All right. So, any questions on the Jira as such? No, Bugzilla already videos are there. We'll not be covering the Bugzilla as live again. So at ITeLearn, what we do is some of them are video based. So why are we trying to do Jira? Because the time that Karthik has done Jira some time back, there's a lot of changes happened in the Jira software. So we thought it's a right time to do this again as a fresh, and then we'll do this recording and then we'll put it again. So suppose next time who comes for the QA live training sessions, right? So they will get QA manual testing plus existing Bugzilla recordings plus this Jira software, these Jira trainings. So that's how we will move it. We'll do sometime Bugzilla also, but not immediately. We had any plan actually. So how many hours of this class? As I told you, it will be definitely about 12 to 15 sessions. No, the softwares are changing very frequently, Rohin. I think going forward, we'll have to do more live training. There is no other option. Previously, if one software is released, the next version of it used to come only on next year, or at least 2 years from that time. So we were also, not really required to do that frequently. But now we also have to become agile. We have to do more live training. So That is how we have to move with the industry. All right, so correct. Anybody has any other questions? I think we're already 5 minutes overshooting. This is free for existing members. I think people who have definitely taken QA live training, it's free for them. But again, please write an email to learn@itlearn.com. They're the best people to answer you, because I don't have any of your details in front of me, what membership that you had and all that. Those are all, I'm just here, a instructor, come for an hour, teach and then go. So please write an email to learn@itlearn.com. They'll be able to help you. But anything related to this course content and everything, yes, you can write. I'll give my email ID in the next class. And yeah, so Rohini, yeah, I got it, and I will be. I think the team forwarded a couple of resumes, but I think you are Premal. Somebody is looking for fresher resume. I will be sending you. Okay. Do you update us with the new version when so see, after learning it once, right? After learning it once, frankly speaking, it is you and me, everybody's responsibility to see what's happening on that, on the Jira. Because when I deal the complete sessions, I'll be showing you from where you can do this, what is a website and everything. So if you are pursuing your career and if you want to pursue your career in that tool, you should keep an eye on that, what's happening there. Otherwise, people will consider you as outdated. So you should keep an eye on that. What is the new things are coming? Oh, okay, fine. Sure. Is there any position for ALM administration? If you have definitely experience in administration, I'm sure you should get so many positions by this time, because learning as a normal QCR ALM user is much different from an administration. So if you are already comfortable in administration, uh, did you put it already into Indeed and Naukri, etc.? So because I see there are a couple of them. But again, going into cloud is something actually may reduce little bit on the administration side, but still there are already openings that I can see there. Sharmin says, Karthik said in Selenium Live project that this is coming project will flow. No, 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 no. See, even I was there, Sharmin. I was trying to answer that question where you wanted to maintain it. But again, he clearly explained focus should be on the Selenium project, not on using any tool, not on using any tools for just simple tracking and all. So what you can do, if you're attending these sessions, you will be learning how to use this. And when you're doing the Selenium project, it is you and the team that you're going to work in the Selenium project have to decide it and then use this. You create some site for you and then you put all your tasks there. You guys daily meet and check out, hey, this task is supposed to be done by you. Let's say creating a data-driven framework. So where is that? So that you have to do. It's basically you have the knowledge on two things and now you can club and combine. But Selenium project focus only on the Selenium. It's up to you to add more into that and as a Jira, and you can maintain your tasks. He clearly told he is okay to maintain the task in an Excel also, but if you want to combine, you can combine. Because if you combine two things, you'll actually, if you combine with everybody, people who don't know Jira, they'll confuse. So that's up to the individual and the team. All right, team. So with this, we'll take a pause here and then we'll come back and meet on day 1 and day 2 sessions. That's going to start on December 1st and December 2nd. So please keep checking your emails. If you have registered, you will get it. So every tool has its own advantages and limitations. Like, I have seen 3 tools of this sort. One is HPALM. I have seen Visual Studio Online and I've seen Jira. So it has its own advantages and disadvantages. So rather than, we'll see what best we can do with the Jira much. All right. So good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you're from. See you in the day 1 session. Thank you, guys.